We often have conversations with parents of older children in Upper Key Stage 2 perhaps, who are reading quite confidently about what you can do with your child at home and how you can help them to progress in their reading. I think sometimes parents feel that once a child can read fluently and with expression, that perhaps they don't need to listen to them reading anymore. But we would really strongly encourage that you do, and hopefully this video can give you a few tips about what you might be able to do if you're reading with your child. I wouldn't suggest you do this by any means every time you hear your child read. It's lovely to hear them read, again, to encourage that expression and so that you can talk to them about the story that they're reading. I would say if you're hearing them reading every day, then generally all you need to do is have a quick discussion of, oh, you know, what's happened so far in the story? What do you think might happen next? And then perhaps at the end, oh, was there anything that surprised you? Or what do you think is going to happen in the next part we read? But this example that I'm going to share with you in this video is if you're picking a little bit of the text to perhaps go a little bit deeper into, so to perhaps to explore a little bit more. And I'd only maybe do this once or twice a week because it's obviously a bit more time consuming. It could be that you might have already read this chapter and then you've returned to this section of the book, or it could be that you do this with a bit that you haven't read yet. So I would say the three key things that you could try to do when you're reading in this way is to think about inference. So inference is when you try to come up with suggestions about what's happening in the text that aren't completely obvious. So they're not being told to you very clearly written down. They're something that you have to infer from details that are in the text. So it might be something like, the boy walked in and sat down with a huff, and you'd say, how is the boy feeling? And it doesn't actually say the boy is feeling fed up or the boy is feeling tired, but the fact that he sat down with a huff means that you can infer that that's how he's feeling. So questions are usually, why do you think the character did that? How do you think the character is feeling? How are they behaving? And it might be, why is that character different to another character? How can you tell? How do you think they're going to react? Those sorts of questions. Also, a focus on vocabulary is very, very helpful. So what particular words tell us? So really focusing in on those words that have been very well chosen in a piece of text that really kind of key into what the author is trying to say. And you could also tie this in with tricky words that your child might not quite understand and might not be aware of. And finally, the author's intent, which I've sort of touched on before, which is, why has the writer used that word, do you think? Or why has the writer set that sentence out like that? What does that punctuation mean? Why did the writer choose to use that? And as I'm sure you can imagine, that then leads into helping your child when they start to write and start to make choices like that themselves. So hopefully you'll find this video helpful to give you some ideas about how you could read with an older child. Right, so we've got to a really exciting bit because we just heard that Edgar, who's Edgar again?
He is the dad of the main character.
Okay, we've just heard him. He's just heard a scream. So what do you think's going to happen next?
I think that he's going to go and see why his son has screamed, because he doesn't know. Because the last thing he was thinking was he's heard a hum, like a mechanical one, from out of his room. Mm-hmm. And then he's thinking he's got a gizmo or some sort of toy.
What's a gizmo?
It's like a mechanical toy.
Okay.
That Edgar didn't know about. But he's taken one step forward and then he's heard him scream. So I think he's quite scared or agitated.
I think a gizmo is something that hasn't got a name yet because it's a new thing that's been invented. Yeah. You're right, a mechanical thing, but it sort of doesn't have a name yet because it's so new.
Yeah.
Okay, let's read them.
Tick shrieked as dozens of winged, buzzing little drones flew out of the gnat rat in a torrent like a pack of raving mad hornets. Without exception, they came directly at him, swarming around his body before he could react, attacking, biting, stinging. Tick swatted at them, slapping and hitting his own body, dancing and kicking, yelling for help. Pinpricks the Plain stabbed every inch of his skin. Under his clothes, in his hair, the mechanical gnats were hungry, and Tick must have looked awfully delicious. Panic shot through him in a rush of adrenaline, his mind shutting down, offering no ideas on what he should do.
So, are they actually living gnats?
No, they're little drones, and they're robots like the gnat rat.
Okay.
So that's why it's called a gnat rat, because it's got the little gnats inside it. And also,
So,
it's like a rat. It looks like a rat.
What words did the author use there that made you think that they sounded almost like they were alive?
And like a pack of raving mad hornets.
Yeah.
Swarming around his body,
Swarming.
attacking, biting and stinging.
Yeah, good. So what does swarming mean?
They're like covering you and swarming towards you.
Yes, covering you is a good way of describing it.
Yeah.
So a swarm is a big group of something, isn't it, that kind of covers you and takes you over. And what word did it use to describe what Tick did that you might do to an animal as well?
He was swatting and slapping and hitting them.
Yeah, so swatting at them. What else might you swat in real life?
Like flies or actual gnats
Yeah.
as well.
What's adrenaline? Do you know what adrenaline is?
Isn't it like excitement kind of?
Yeah.
Like,
It's a chemical reaction in your body that makes you feel excited or frightened or react in a certain way. Yeah.
he heard his bedroom door slam against the wall. "Atticus!" his dad yelled. But Tick couldn't look at him. He squeezed his eyes closed, scared the gnats would blind him. They were relentless, attacking him over and over again, the sharp stingers finding fresh spots to hurt him with frightening ease. Overwhelmed by pain and fear, he fell to the ground. He felt his dad gripping his arms, dragging him across the door and out of his room.
Hang on, across the
floor and out of his room. Down the hall into the bathroom. He heard the rush of water in the bathtub. "Dad," he thought, wanting to warn him, but afraid to open his mouth. "They'll eat you alive too."
Why is that bit written in italics?
Because it's him thinking and trying to tell his dad, but he can't because he doesn't want to open his mouth.
Yeah, because he's too scared of being attacked.
Like the gnats going into his
Do you know what relentless means?
And they're just not stopping. They're coming on and on and on and on and on. They're just not stopping.
Why do you think his dad's running the bath?
Because he's going to put him in the bath. And because the little gnats are robots, they won't be able to go in the water.
Oh, yeah, good point.
They're robots.
That's a good point.
Yeah, so he's going to go in the bath. So
Do you think it'll work?
No,
Oh.
I don't think so. It hurt too much to cry. Tick felt like he'd been taken to an acupuncture school, and the over-anxious students had given up on the little needles and decided to use knives instead.
Do you know what acupuncture is?
No.
So acupuncture is a type of medicine where you get very, very tiny needles put in you.
Okay.
Really tiny, thinner than a needle that you would use if you were sewing, really tiny. And they put it into your skin, into little pressure points to relieve tension in your skin. So what's the author saying there?
It's basically saying they're basically that the gnats, that's what the gnats are doing, but it's not like little, it's like it's like they're putting knives in him instead.
Yes.
His whole world had turned into one big ouch. He'd never felt so hopeless. His dad heaved Tick off the floor and plopped him into the tub, splashing the cold water all over his pyjamas, his skin, his hair. Though his whole body felt racked with pain, didn't sense the gnats, leaving him in hordes, even before he'd landed in the shallow pool of water. "They're machines," he thought instantly. "They run on electricity." "They're machines," he thought distantly. "They run on electricity. The water will kill them."
Why do you think he's thinking it distantly?
Because he's not really concentrating on it. He's more concentrating about his dad, because he might get hurt as well. And also, he's just distracted.
I think he can't
pain.
think straight because he's in so much pain.
Yeah.
So that's why he's thinking it distantly. He's not capable of thinking about how to solve the problem, is he?
No, because he's so consumed with the pain.
Exactly.
An angry buzz filled the bathroom, but Tic couldn't bring himself to open his eyes. He heard a towel whipping through the air. His dad must be trying to chase the gnats away and out of the room. Horror filled Tic's stomach as he realised the vicious gnats might be going for his sisters, his mum. "Dad!" he yelled with a slur, his mouth swollen. "Kayla, Lisa, Mum!" And then he passed out.
So what do you think he looks like at the moment?
He's like covered in stings and he's quite wet.
What makes you think he's covered in stings?
Because it said that his lip was swollen and I presume that's all about because he was bitten, so he'd be all swollen up.
Yes.
It would be wet because he's in the bar.
Why do you think the author chose to put that last line all on its own and then he passed out?
Because it's more suspense. It's a line break and it's suspense.
What do you mean? What does it do?
It's basically saying, because he's talking and then it's meant to be like suddenly. It's basically like suddenly it's just saying, and then he passed out. It's quite sudden.
And then we've got these gaps as well, haven't we? In what are they showing in the text?
A gap of time or in somebody else's perspective.